It was during a humid lull in the April of the year 1888, shortly after Holmes and I had returned from an affair in Milan involving a forged Bernini statue and the death of an Italian consul, that we were drawn into a matter which, though trivial in appearance, was yet most singular in its unravelling. Indeed, I recall it vividly as one of those occasions on which Holmes solved the case without leaving the comfort of our sitting room at 221B Baker Street, and with only the aid of a telegram and a pipe of Arcadia mixture, rendered it all the more characteristic of his peculiar genius. I had just returned from an afternoon walk and was settling down in my armchair to read an article in the British Medical Journal on the Lumleian Lectures on Uric Acid, its physiology, and its relation to renal calculi and gravel, when Mrs. Hudson knocked at the sitting-room door. "A gentleman to see you, Mr. Holmes. Name of Mr. Darrow. He says it's most urgent." Holmes, who was stretched languidly upon the sofa, eyes half closed in contemplation of the ceiling, stirred only enough to say, "Show him in." Our visitor was a florid, agitated man of middle age with a reddish moustache, a heavy watch chain stretched across his waistcoat, and he carried a travelling valise in one hand. "Mr. Holmes," he said breathlessly, "you must forgive my unannounced intrusion, but I have lost something of the most pressing importance." "Please sit down," Holmes said, gesturing with two fingers. "I observe that you are a solicitor, that you came here directly from the train, and that your troubles began on the 8 a.m. from Liverpool to Euston." The man blinked in astonishment and sat heavily in the chair across from Holmes. "Well, yes, I am indeed a solicitor, Darrow, of Darrow, Hinckley and Pratt. But how on earth—" Holmes waved a hand. "You have the airs and manner of a solicitor. Your cuffs are ink-blotted, yet your fingers are clean, the sign of one who drafts documents but employs a clerk to copy them. As for the train, your pocket betrays you a timetable folded to page 17, which lists the 8 o'clock Liverpool Lime Street departure. As for your anxiety, that is stamped upon your every feature." "Well," said Mr. Darrow, evidently impressed, "perhaps then you can help me. It is not an object I have lost, Mr. Holmes, but a case, a legal case. It concerns a certain General Thomas Vane, late of the Indian Army, now deceased. His will, a document of considerable complexity, is due to be read this evening. It had been kept in a valise under my charge." "Not, I assume," said Holmes, eyes still closed, "the valise you currently hold?" "Just so. This is the confounded matter. When I boarded the train, I had my own valise, the one containing the General's final will and testament, but it is not the one I left with." I said I believe I read of General Vane's passing in the Times, a man of impressive reputation and considerable property. Indeed, land in Hampshire, investments in rubber, and a small collection of Indian antiquities. The will was to be read this evening to the assembled family. Many are already gathered at my client's home, including a niece from Ireland and a son who has travelled from Egypt. However, upon reaching Euston and opening the valise in my cab, I discovered not the will, but instead this. He opened the valise and turned it toward inside, including various items of women's garments, a needlework sampler wrapped in muslin, a vanity box, and a dog-eared copy of A Romance of Two Worlds by Marie Corelli. Holmes asked, "You had a lady in your carriage. Do you recall where she departed?" Mr. Darrow replied, "I was quite absorbed in the papers of another case and cannot be sure, but I believe she may have gotten off at the stop before Euston, although I'm unsure what that might be." Holmes didn't even appear to be listening, but replied to himself, "Willesden Junction." Looking up at the solicitor, he said, "A John Pound and Company brown pigskin valise. "May I examine it?" he said, holding out his hand. Mr. Darrow handed it over and leant forward anxiously. "You see, the reading of the will is set to take place this evening at 8 p.m. in Belgravia at the General's home. If the document is not produced, there will be accusations, suspicions, perhaps even lawsuits. I must find my valise, Mr. Holmes. You are my only hope." Holmes looked up at Mr. Darrow and nodded his head and said, "I will do my best. Pray now. Let Dr. Watson pour you a restorative drink, whilst I finish my examination." I poured the agitated Mr. Darrow a brandy, and we both lit a cigar by the fire, while sitting in silence awaiting Holmes to finish. Holmes was removing items from the valise and giving them a quick glance. We watched him examine the vanity case, then flick through the book, and to my great surprise, he merely looked around at Mr. Darrow. "I may have some resolve in this affair. Come back at 6 p.m. I beg your pardon? I suspect we may find the situation looking quite different by then. Leave the lady's valise here. Watson, kindly ensure it is not tampered with. Good day, Mr. Darrow." The solicitor looked stunned, but after some hesitation, he placed the valise on the floor and departed, muttering to himself. I turned to Holmes. "You surely cannot solve this by waiting, Holmes." He smiled faintly. "The temptation to explain, Watson, is ever present, but I must decline for now. However, I believe you may prepare your pen. You might have a tidy little case for your annals before the day is through." With that, Holmes rose, took up a blank telegram form, and after writing briefly, he rang for a boy and dispatched it. Then he lay back upon the sofa, eyes closed once more. I knew I would get no more explanation from Holmes, so I turned back to my medical journal. 3 hours had passed, and I became so absorbed in the various aspects of the article that I almost forgot about the affair entirely. During that time, Holmes neither stirred nor spoke, save to fill his pipe once. At precisely 5:30, a knock came at the door. Mrs. Hudson entered. "A lady to see you, sir. Her name is Miss Lillian Braddock." "Excellent," said Holmes. "Please show her in." The woman who entered was perhaps 30, finely dressed, with auburn hair, a pale face, and an anxious expression. She started at the sight of the bag on the floor. "My valise, thank heaven." She turned to Holmes. "Sir, I believe there has been a terrible mix-up. I travelled today from Liverpool and brought my valise with me. It must have been identical in appearance to another in the carriage, and I must have taken the wrong one by mistake." "No doubt," said Holmes, rising. "And did you, by any chance, glance inside the one you took?" "I did, but only briefly. It contained papers, many papers. I closed it at once. I had no idea what to do. I cannot tell you, Mr. Holmes, what a fluster I was in until I received your telegram asking me to come to 221B Baker Street immediately." "Indeed, and I thank you for doing so. Your bag is here," Holmes said, handing it to her, "and the one you mistakenly took will also be returned to its rightful owner shortly." "Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I cannot tell you what a relief." She hesitated. "May I ask how you knew where to find me?" In reply, Holmes merely smiled. "Never mind. I have many ways of finding people. Now, Miss Braddock, let us not keep you from the rest of your evening." Miss Braddock again thanked Holmes most graciously, collected her valise, curtsied, and withdrew, glowing with gratitude. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Darrow returned, harried and perspiring. "I say, Mr. Holmes, do you have any news of my valise?" "Indeed," said Holmes. "Your property is there, on the table." Darrow rushed forward and threw open the bag, checking for the will. On finding it intact, a great sigh escaped him. "It's the will," You found it and saved me a grave error, Holmes said mildly. Indeed, but the real error lies with the makers of valises, who persist in making them indistinguishable from one another. But how on earth? Holmes relit his pipe. When I observed that the bag you brought was not yours, the contents of the valise suggested a woman owner. On closer inspection, I found tucked inside the book a letter addressed to Miss Lillian Braddock, 11 Manor Road, NW, which she was using as a bookmark. It became clear that she was the rightful owner of the bag. I deduced she had taken your bag in error, therefore. I sent a telegram inviting her here to collect her belongings. And she came, precisely half an hour ago. Darrow sank into the chair, dazed but delighted. Mr. Holmes, I will forever be in your debt. Now, if you'll forgive me, I must now hurry to Belgravia to prepare. Have saved the day. What do I owe you? Holmes merely shook his head and replied, It was a mere trifle. You owe me nothing. You simply made a dull day slightly brighter. The second person that day then again thanked Holmes profusely before bowing and making his exit. When he had gone, I could not help but shake my head. You solved the entire matter, I said, without ever leaving the room. Why should I? Holmes replied, smiling. The facts were all before me. The requirement, therefore, was patience and a telegram. He reached for his violin. The world, Watson, he said, tuning idly, is full of people rushing about in search of answers. Sometimes the best course is to sit still and let the answer come to you. And with that, the room filled with music.